but those who came, thank you very much for coming. And those who are viewing, welcome. And I'm hoping we can make this as smooth as possible under the circumstances. So welcome, everybody. Could the company secretary please read the notice of the meeting?
Notice of annual general meeting. Notice is hereby given that the 81st annual general meeting of Seprod will be held at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel, 81 Oxford Boulevard, Kingston 5, on September 21, 2020 at 11 a.m. for the purpose of transacting the following business. 1, to receive the audited accounts and the reports of the directors and auditors. To consider, and if thought fit, pass the following resolution. That the director's report, the auditor's report, and the audited accounts for the year ended December 31, 2019 be and hereby adopted. Be and are hereby adopted. 2, to elect directors. The directors retiring from office by rotation pursuant to Articles 89 and 91 of the company's Articles of Association are Messrs. Paul B. Scott, Michael Subrati, Nicholas Scott, and Peter J. Thwaites, who, being eligible, hereby offer themselves for re-election. To consider, and if thought fit, pass the following resolutions. Resolution 2A, that the directors retiring from office by rotation and offering themselves for re-election be elected en bloc. Resolution 2B, that Messrs. Paul B. Scott, Michael Subrati, Nicholas Scott, and Peter Thwaites be re-elected as directors. 3, to fix the remuneration of directors. To consider, and if thought fit, pass the following resolution. That the amount shown in the audited accounts as directors' remuneration for the year ended 31st December 2019 be and is hereby adopted. 4, to appoint auditors and authorize the directors to fix the remuneration of auditors. To consider, and if thought fit, pass the following resolutions. Resolution 4A, that PricewaterhouseCoopers, having indicated their willingness to continue in office as auditors, be reappointed auditors for the ensuing year. Resolution 4B, that the directors be authorized to agree on the remuneration of the auditors. 5, to pass a resolution for the notice of annual general meeting and audited accounts of the company to be sent to the members in electronic format. To consider, and if thought fit, pass the following resolution. That the members agree to accept in electronic format, including email, notices or any other document, including audited accounts, required to be sent by the company to the members. 6, to transact any other business which may properly be transacted at an annual general meeting. The notice is dated this 20th day of April 2020 by order of the board and signed by yours truly.
Thank you very much. And do we have any apologies for absence?
No apologies.
Mr. Hugh Gentles, thank you. Please note that. The Corporate Secretary, could you give us a list of the proxies that you have?
For Motion Jamaica Limited in favor of Mr. Paul B. Scott or Mrs. Melanie Subrati. There's a proxy for Coconut Industry Board in favor of Mr. Christopher Gentles or Mr. Nicholas Jones. There's a proxy for Facey Group Limited in favor of Mr. Paul B. Scott or Mrs. Melanie Subrati. There's a proxy for Wilfred McKinley in favor of Ms. Sherika Hall. There's a proxy for Mr. Winston Harrison in favor of Ms. Shauna K. Harrison. And finally, Mark Sibley's in favor of Mr. Paul B. Scott.
Thank you. Thank you. I will now present the report of the directors to the shareholders. To those who have an annual report, everyone should have one in their bag. This is on page 2. Directors' report. The directors of Seprod submit herewith their annual report and audited accounts for the year ended December 31st, 2019. Financial results. The group ended the year with a profit before tax of 1.39 billion and a net profit attributable to shareholders of 1.07 billion. Details of these results, along with the comparisons with the previous year's performance and state of the affairs of the company, are set out in the management discussion and analysis and the financial statements which are included in this report. Dividend. A dividend of 50 cents per ordinary stock unit to stockholders on record as at August 2nd, 2019, was paid on August 30th, 2019. A further dividend of 50 cents per ordinary stock unit to stockholders on record as of January 3rd, 2020, was paid January 31st, 2020. The directors do not recommend any further payment for dividends for 2019. Directors, in accordance with the Articles 89 and 91 of the company's Articles of Association, the following directors retiring from office by rotation, being eligible, offer themselves for re-election: Paul B. Scott, Michael Subrati, Nicholas Scott, Peter J. Thwaites. Auditors. The auditors, Messrs. PricewaterhouseCoopers, have indicated their willingness to continue in office. The directors recommend their reappointment. Audit Committee. The Board of Directors of Seprod Limited exercises its responsibility for financial statements included in this report through its Audit Committee, which consists of non-management board members, Mrs. Melanie Subrati, chairperson, and members Mr. Byron Thompson, Mr. Peter Thwaites, and Mr. Nicholas Scott. The independent accountants and internal auditors have full and free access to the Audit Committee. The Audit Committee meets quarterly with the independent accountants and the internal auditors, both privately and with management present, to discuss accounting, auditing, and financial reporting matters. Employees. The directors wish to express their appreciation to the employees for their loyal services throughout the year. Submitted on behalf of the Board of Directors, P.B. Scott, Chairman. Mr. Richard Pandui will now give an update on the company.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman P.B. Scott, directors present and those online, valued shareholders, those who are present, those online, members of the media, the Seprod family are here. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Well, welcome to our AGM. Despite COVID, the show must go on. The show will go on. None of us saw this coming, and truthfully, with so many unknowns, it is difficult to say what our future will look like. But what I can assure you is that we're committed to coming out of this pandemic even more resilient and agile than before. I will be very brief this morning, but I want to take a few minutes to step back to prior years, particularly 2015, when I was coming on board. I met with the chairman, and he outlined his vision for the group. He wanted modern manufacturing facilities, value-added acquisitions, a strong distribution pillar, a company that was delivering above average value for the shareholders, and for employees to have opportunities to become owners. I'm pleased to say, Chairman, that your management team has delivered on the mandate. We have done significant projects during this period, and we culminated in 2019 by closing some big ticket projects, by exiting the hugely unprofitable sugar manufacturing operations and completing the consolidation of the dairy business, one of the largest consolidation of its type in Jamaica manufacturing history. These initiatives have set the stage for significant improvement in our performance, which you would have already noted in our 2020 first half results. For the 6 months ended June 30th, 2020, the Seprod Group achieved revenues from continuing operations of $18.61 billion, an increase of 12% over the corresponding period in 2019. And taking both the profit from continuing operation as well as the losses from the discontinued operation into account, The net profit for the period was 1.2 billion Jamaican dollars, an increase of $648 million, or 117% over the corresponding period in 2019. Over the last few years, we have doubled down on equipment investment and retooling. But now our focus has shifted to our distribution, both domestic and export, warehousing and logistics efforts. These areas are the lifeblood of the organization, connecting our factories, production, and the amazing brands of our partners to our consumers and customers. We are projected to spend a total in excess of 2.5 billion Jamaican dollars to build out and consolidate our warehousing operations and create a distribution organization that will be cost competitive, agile, and with a customer footprint second to none. The first phase of the project was completed in 2019, and the second phase has commenced with a completion schedule for the quarter 3 2021. COVID-19 is truly reshaping our world and the way we do business. Whilst there are many unknowns and the challenges are well documented, what is not as well talked about are the opportunities that the disruptions have created. We all have had to learn to work virtually. E-commerce is now an essential channel to reach consumers. Global supply chain disruptions have created export opportunities and possible value-enhancing acquisitions. Your management team has been and will continue to work hard to capitalize on these opportunities to bring value to all stakeholders. And our stakeholders include not just our shareholders, but our country, our employees, everyone. And with more than 2,000 persons directly and indirectly employed by the group, we are fully aware of the critical role that our people play in ensuring our success. We're also equally aware of how important the operation is to the lives of thousands of persons that are in these families, especially now more than ever. We take this responsibility seriously, and we'll do our best to protect our valued employees through this unprecedented economic shock. We are a team that want to live with compassion. Through our foundation, we continue to contribute to our most vulnerable citizens, fully cognizant that we have a social responsibility that goes beyond our own employees. Team Seprod is fully engaged, and we're confident that we'll continue to find ways to unlock our full potential and be a key player in the renaissance of the productive sector and the recovery of Jamaica. On behalf of all the employees of Seprod, I want to thank you for your continued confidence in our company. Please be safe, follow all the health protocols, and let us reach out to help those who most need it in our country. We got this. Seprod strong. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. I'd just like to acknowledge all our directors who are actually on the, is it Zoom or what are we doing here? Live stream. Okay, on the live stream. So welcome to them. And some of them will be re-elected. They're not here physically, but I know a lot of people like to see the directors that are going to be re-elected present. Under these circumstances, we've acknowledged, and we know that not all of them can attend, but they are on the Zoom, on the live stream. So please forgive us for that. But the circumstances have led us down that road. I'm also going to ask you to forgive us for the long-winded, extended, real pain to listen to audit report of PricewaterhouseCoopers. I hope that this will be the last time that I have to complain, but the Companies Act really needs to be changed because to facilitate this is extraordinarily outdated and quite frankly a waste of everybody in this room's time, given that it is written in front of you, and for those who are diligent can clearly read it, and when we have questions and answers can answer it. Now I'm finding myself taking up a lot of time, so I will move straight on to Mr. Paul Williams of Pricewaterhouse. Will you please read the auditor's report? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I have a mic on. Independence Auditor's Report to the members of Seprod Limited. The report on the audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statement Our opinion. In our opinion, the consolidated financial statement and the standalone financial statement give a true and fair view of the consolidated financial position of Seprod Limited, the company and its subsidiary, together the group, and the standalone financial position of the company as of 31st December 2009, and of their consolidated and standalone financial performance, and their consolidated and standalone cash flow for the year then ended in accordance with International Financial Reporting Standards, IFRS, and with the requirement of the Jamaican Companies Act. What we have audited. Seprod consolidated and standalone financial statement comprise the consolidated statement of financial position as of 31st December 2009, the consolidated statement of comprehensive income for the year then ended, the consolidated statement of changes in equity for the year then ended, the consolidated statement of cash flow for the year then ended, the statement of financial position as of 31st December 2009, the statement of comprehensive income for the year then ended, the statement of changes in equity for the year then ended, the statement of cash flows for the year then ended, and the notes to the consolidated and standalone financial statement, which includes significant accounting policies. The basis for our opinion. We conducted our audit in accordance with international standard on auditing. Our responsibilities under those standards are further described in the auditor's responsibilities of the audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statement section of our report. We believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. Independence. We are independent of the group in accordance with the International Ethics Standard Board of Accountants Code of Ethics for Professional Accountants. We are fulfill our other ethical responsibility in accordance with the IESBA code. Our audit approach. Audit scope. As part of designing our audit, we determine the materiality and assess the risk of misstatement in a consolidated and standalone financial statement. In particular, we consider where management made subjective judgments, for example, in respect of significant accounting estimates that involve making assumptions and considering future events that are inherently uncertain. As in all of our audit, we also address the risk of management override of internal control, including among other matters for our consideration of whether there was evidence of bias that represents a risk of material misstatement due to fraud. Or we tailor our group audit scope. We tailor the scope of our audit in order to perform sufficient work to enable us to perform an opinion on the consolidated financial statement as a whole, taking into account the structure of the group, the accounting processes and control, and industries in which the group operates. The group consists of 16 legal entities located in Jamaica, St. Lucia, Trinidad and Tobago, and the Dominican Republic, each of which is considered a component for the audit scoping processes. The accounting records for 10 of the legal entities are maintained at group head office. The remaining 6 accounting records are kept at other offices in Jamaica. All entities within the group are audited by PwC Jamaica, and full scope audit were performed for all components. Context. Consistent with prior year, our key audit matters relate to valuation of unquoted securities, as this continuity involves significant level of judgment by management and expert knowledge. Key audit matters. Key audit matters are those matters that, in our professional judgment, were of most significance in our audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statement of the current period. These matters were addressed in the context of our audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statement as a whole. And in forming our opinion thereon, we do not provide a separate audit opinion on those matters. The key audit matter, valuation of unquoted securities for the group and standalone, refer to Note 4 and 17 of the consolidated and standalone financial statement for the disclosure of related accounting policies and judgment and estimates. Unquoted equity securities included within the investment of the consolidated and standalone financial statement total $1.5 billion as of 31st December 2019, which represents 4% and 5.6% of the total assets of the group and company, respectively. The unquoted equity securities relate to an investment in an affiliated company over which Seprod does not exercise significant influence. These securities are not quoted in an active market. The fair value of these securities is determined using a valuation model based on discounted future cash flow. The magnitude of the balance, the complexity of the valuation method used, and the use of management determined assumption led us to focus on this balance. In particular, we focus on management judgment relating to the investee future cash flows, terminal growth rate, discount rate, market participant minority discount. Management used an independent valuation expert to assist in the valuation process. Our audit addressed the key audit matter. We updated our understanding and evaluation and evaluated management future cash flow forecasts and the process by which they were determined, including testing underlying calculations and comparing them to the latest board-approved budget of the investee. We compare prior management budget to actual results of the investee to evaluate accuracy of management forecast process. We test the reasonableness of management's key assumptions as follows. Compare long-term growth rate to the forecast to historical results and economic and industrial forecasts. Evaluate the assistance of our own valuation expert, management's assumption concerning the selected growth rate, the terminal growth rate, discount rate, and market participant minority discount by reference to industry data. Compare the key assumptions to externally derived data where possible, including market expectation of the investment return, projected economic growth, and interest rate. Sensitize management plan growth rate in cash flow and change it in discount rate. As a result of our testing, no differences requiring adjustments were identified. Other information. Management is responsible for other information. The other information comprises the annual report, but does not include the consolidated and standalone financial statement, and our audit report, auditor's report thereon, which is expected to be made available to us on our date after our audit report. Our opinion on the consolidated and standalone financial statement does not cover other information, and we will not express any form of assurance conclusion thereon. In connection with our audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statement, our responsibility is to read the other information, identify above when it becomes available, and in doing so, consider whether the other information is materially inconsistent with the consolidated and standalone financial statement, or our knowledge obtained in the audit or otherwise appear to be materially misstated. When you read the annual report, we conclude that there is no material misstatement therein. We are required to communicate the matter to those charged with governance. Responsibilities of management and those charged with governance for the consolidated and standalone financial statement. Management is responsible for the preparation of the consolidated and standalone financial statement that give a true and fair view in accordance with IFRS and with the requirement of the Jamaican Companies Act. And for such internal controls as management determines is necessary to enable the preparation of the consolidated and standalone financial statement that are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error. In preparing the consolidated and standalone financial statement, management is responsible for assessing the groups and the company's ability to continue as a going concern, disclosing as applicable matters relating to going concern, using going concern basis for accounting unless management either intend to liquidate the group or the company, or to cease operation or has no realistic alternative but to do so. Those charged with governance are responsible for overseeing the group and the company's financial statement, financial reporting process. Auditor's responsibility for the audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statement. Our objectives are to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the consolidated and standalone financial statement as a whole are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error, or to issue an auditor's report that include our opinion. Reasonable assurance is a high level of assurance, but is not a guarantee that an audit concluded in accordance with ICAs will always detect a material misstatement when it exists. Misstatement can arise from fraud or error and are considered material if individually or in aggregate, they could reasonably be expected to influence the economic decision of the users taken on the basis of these consolidated and standalone financial statements. As part of an audit in accordance with ICA, we exercise professional judgment and maintain professional skepticism throughout the audit. We also identify and assess the risks of material misstatement of the consolidated and standalone financial statement, whether due to fraud or error, design and perform audit procedures responsive to those risks, and obtain audit evidence that is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. The risk of not detecting a material misstatement resulting from fraud is higher than for one resulting from error. And fraud may involve collusion, forgery, intentional omission, misrepresentation, or the override of internal control. Obtain an understanding of internal controls relevant to the audit in order to design audit procedures that are appropriate in the circumstances, but not for the purpose of expressing an opinion on the effectiveness of the group and company's internal control. Conclude on the appropriateness of management's use of going concern basis for accounting, and based on the audit evidence, obtain whether a material uncertainty exists to event or condition that may cast significant doubt on the group or company's ability to continue as a going concern. If we conclude that a material uncertainty exists, we are required to draw attention in our audit report to the relevant disclosure in the consolidated and standalone financial statement. Or if such disclosures are inadequate, to modify our opinion. Our conclusions are based on the audit evidence obtained up to the date of our audit report. However, future events or conditions may cause the group or the company to cease as a going concern. Evaluate the overall presentation structure and content of the consolidated and standalone financial statement, including the disclosure, whether the consolidated or standalone financial statement represent the underlying transaction and event in a manner that achieves fair presentation. Obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence regarding the financial information of the entities or business initiative within the group to express an opinion on the consolidated financial statement. We are responsible for the direction, supervision, and performance of the group audit. We remain solely responsible for our audit opinion. We communicate with those charged with governance regarding, among other matters, the planned scope, timing of the audit, and the significant audit findings, including any significant deficiencies in internal control that we identify during our audit. We also provide those charged with governance with a statement we have complied with the relevant ethical requirement regarding independence, and to communicate with them all relationships and other matters that may reasonably be thought to bear out on our independence, and where applicable, related safeguard. From the matters communicated with those charged with governance, we determined those matters that were most significant in the audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statement of the current period and are therefore the key audit matters. We describe those matters in our audit opinion unless laws or regulation precludes public disclosure about the matter, or when in extremely rare circumstances we determined that a matter should not be communicated in our audit report because the adverse consequences of doing so would reasonably be expected to outweigh the public interest benefit of such communication. Reporting of the legal and regulatory requirements. As required by the Jamaican Companies Act, we have obtained all information and explanation which, to the best of our knowledge and belief, were necessary for the purpose of our audit. In our opinion, proper accounting records have been kept so far as appear from our examination of those records, and the company consolidated and standalone financial statement are in agreement therewith, and give the information required by the Jamaican Companies Act in a manner so required. Engaging partner regarding independence audit report, Paul Williams, signed PricewaterhouseCoopers, Chartered Accountant, Kingston, Jamaica, the 24th of April, 2020.
Thank you very much, Mr. Williams. That was very well done. The director's report, the auditor's report, and the financial statements are now open for discussion. If we have any questions. Yes, sir.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, if you go to the mic, I think then, and if for the purpose.
Mr. Chair, good morning. Good morning, fellow shareholders, media. Good morning.
Morning.
Mr. Chair,
Just for the purpose of the meeting and for those who don't know your name, could you?
My name is Orit Staple.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I have two observations I would like to share before I ask my question. So with your permission, sir, I would like to share these observations. As a group, we must give thanks to our Creator God for guiding us over the last 12 months.
Boy, all right.
When we met together, and for taking us safely here today. We thank you, Lord, for your many blessings despite the many challenges we have all been exposed to and we are coping with. We invite you, Father, in our midst, and as we deliberate the business of our group, we ask you to help us to respect each other's opinion. Kindly guide our chairman, the members of the board, and hard-working employees and shareholders and customers, so that we will all be blessed. This we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that, Mr. Staples. I would like to say, we at Seprod are embracing of diversity, embracing of all religions, and therefore I would, while I appreciate and accept, and that's relevant to me, religion has no place in the workplace, and we like to keep it that way because we are open to all religions and all people. But nevertheless, please carry on.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, despite the reduction in net profit, I congratulate you and your board members for the professional and expert wisdom being adopted in our group, ensuring that with God's blessing we are able to overcome the many challenges. Congratulations to the team leader, Mr. Pandui, who led his team with authority and confidence. May you all continue the very good work that you're doing. My first question, Mr. Chair. With your permission, through to the auditor. Mr. Williams, the unquoted equity securities of 1.5 billion was a serious concern for you. What led you to this concern, and how can this be prevented for the future?
Okay, I'll answer that, and then he can reiterate whatever. Any private securities that we hold, regardless of what they are, have to be tested every year. I am not aware, I think what Mr. Williams was actually saying there was the process in which the testing occurred, which is consistent with what will be there for next year and what has been in the past. The fact that there has been no provisions or anything like that for those private equity positions, in essence, is underlying the performance, and the performance is based upon the projections that were given when those actual equity investments were made. I will ask Mr. Williams if he has a different opinion so that you can verify that, but that is the position, my understanding.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Staples, the chairman is spot on. As you said, it's unquoted, so to determine the value, both management and ourselves, we have to look at certain inputs to determine the value. And we employ our own expert just to test what management came up with. And as indicated in the report, there were no adjustments, there were no issue with the value determined by management. But as the chairman said, once securities are not listed, it's a standard process that we have to go through.
Okay, sir, thank you. Mr. Chair, your trade receivables of 128.5 million were considered impaired. Why did this happen? Impacting negatively on our expenses on the P&L. What are you doing to prevent and correct this?
Well,
Page 94.
Yeah. We impair or make provisions every year for our receivables and expected credit losses. The provisions are within actual norm. I don't think there's anything. In fact, there was a write back during the year again. So if you look at 2018, you're referring to 124 million, which is from the previous year, which is accumulation of provisions for many, many years. And then during the year, there's provided during the year, if you look at on the same page, under 2019, and there's a 24,999,000, which was actually written back. So, in effect, we actually have improved and collected more than we've actually provided for there.
So what you're telling me, Mr. Chair, is that the procedures that you have in place are working as far as impairment and collection of the credit outstanding.
Yeah, so we have set provision structures, right, that are not ambiguous. Once receivables get past a certain aging, we provide for them. We try to collect as much receivables as possible because that's the objective of our business, is to convert raw materials into higher value added cash. But it's the nature of our business. We will have credit losses tomorrow, this year, and we've had them in the past, and we'll have many more in the future. Our objective is to reduce that to the smallest amount possible.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, what accounted for this unrealized loss of 152.8 million for assets held at the reporting period? What were these assets?
Could you refer to the page you're talking about?
Page 101. Sorry about that, sir.
Total gains or losses for the period, including profits of 115 million.
152.8 million for assets held at the reporting period. What are these assets?
The gain of 115 million. This is see, it says at the top, fair value of biological assets, Mr. Staples. At the top. That's the title. So it would be referring to the fair value of the biological assets. Biological assets are the values of basically agricultural working capital. So that either could be, in this case, on a consolidated basis, sugar cane, whether the sugar cane is 1 foot high or whether it's 6 foot high. Whether if it's 1 foot high, it has one value. If it's 6 foot high, it has another. If it's a cow, if the cow is straight, brand new, out of its mother, it's got one value. If it's producing milk every single day and it's quite mature, it has another value. These are biological assets, and we have to value those on a quarterly basis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What accounted for this high cost of inventory 19/18 by 8.4 billion or 71.2%. Page 106.
Yeah, well, I don't even need to look at that. That's an increase in sales. If you look at the increase in sales, you're going to have an increase in cost of sales.
So that is as a result of increased sales.
Yeah, the sales increased by 45% year over year because of the acquisition of Facey Commodity. If you increase the business, you're going to have increased cost of sales.
Mr. Chair, if you turn it into page...
Okay. Mr. Staples, I don't want to cramp
Yes,
your
I
style.
understand.
I know you do have but how many more questions do you have? Because
Well,
we have...
3 more questions, then I'll
Okay,
finish.
okay, can you make them very, very efficient?
Page 73.
Yep.
Mr. Chair,
Mm-hmm.
for 2018, your total revenue, and when I say total, I mean all your revenues, was $23.4 billion.
Mm-hmm.
And your total expenses was $22.3 billion, which gave you a profit of $1.1 billion in 2018. For every dollar of revenue earned in 2018, 95 cents went to expense and 5 cents went to profit. In 2019, your total revenue was $34.4 billion, and your expenses was $33.4 billion, which gave you a net profit of $973.3 million.
Yeah.
For every dollar of
we
revenue,
know the maths. So let me explain that. Basically, we had two, which I addressed in my actual letter to shareholders in this annual report. We had two structural events last year that cost a lot of money. The first one, and most important one, and I would say disappointing, but necessary, was the closure of the sugar factory. The sugar factory, the numbers that you're looking at, which is a net position, cost us 750 million Jamaican dollars last year, which was effectively the costs of making provisions for all the accounts receivable we did not believe we were going to collect, for machinery that we did not think we were going to use, for simple things like welding rods that we didn't believe that we were going to be able to liquidate, for redundancies, which was several hundred million. And so that was one cost. The other cost was the fact that we closed our factory in St. Thomas, Surge Island, which was well documented, well discussed, and indeed included in my letter, Mr. Staples. And that cost us about $300 million to move the factory to Bog Walk. That included redundancy, but an awful lot of engineering costs. And when you're moving highly sensitive machinery and you have to re-engineer it and restructure the organization, it was very expensive. So we had about $1 billion of costs in 2019 that are not going to be repeated this year. I'm sure as a shareholder you have seen our results, and if you add back those, then that will give you some level of explanation for improved results in 2020.
because, Mr. Chair, I appreciate what you have said. I appreciate your explanation. But what made me got a little bit frightened, Mr. Chair, is that when in 2019, when you achieved your 2018 figure in 2019, all the incremental dollars that were earned all went into expenses. All the 11.1 billion was the incremental earnings, and your expense was 11.1 billion. So all your incremental earnings went into expense. And I can now understand what took place based on your explanation a while ago.
Good, I'm happy for that.
Mr. Chair, last question. What has led your management to believe that the going concern presumption for the financial statements will be achieved?
Okay.
What has led your
the
management?
Going concern. assumptions. So are you referring to the Pricewaterhouse, us continuing as a going concern? I think
Turn
that
me to
is
page 133.
133.
Yes. What has led your management to believe that the going concern presumption for the financial statements will be achieved? What made you think so?
Well, I mean, you know, we go to work every day, Mr. Staples, and with all due respect, we have plans, we have budgets, and we work very, very hard. The management team, led by Richard, is very, very diligent, and, you know, we manage our cash flows, we manage our performance to budget, and the company is very strong. It has a lot of equity, and we're profitable, and the results you will have seen for the 6 months are vastly improved on the 2019 numbers that you were just commenting on. And the level of cash that we have in the business is actually at the highest level that there has been since I've been a director, and I think I was a director in 1995 or something. So we are very confident, and we know our business, and that's essentially the answer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair,
Okay,
and
thank
continue
you
the
very much,
hard work that you and
Thank you
your
very much,
employees
Mr.
are doing.
Staples.
Thank you.
Sir, could you mention your name so everyone can know who you are?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Livingston Young. You can turn to page 110, please.
Okay, just first of all, how many questions are you going to ask Mr. Young?
Just two.
Just two. Okay. First
Two
question.
pages. 2 pages.
Right. Which
All right.
page?
110. Property, plant, and equipment. Note 14. Property, plant, and equipment.
Yes.
Under costs, impairment, building, motor vehicle. All right. At the 1st of January 2019, I see you have transaction at your asset held for addition, disposal, written off, adjustment, transaction.
Mm-hmm.
I see I've written off, down the bottom line, I have 200.
Yeah. So that relates back to Mr. Staples' very interesting question about what were the one-offs the previous year. So we've made significant provisions and write-offs for items relating to operations that are no longer operating, such as the sugar factory.
Oh, and disposal of 3,118,000. You see here, Mr. Chairman, disposal.
Right. The 602 million?
See it right under.
What's the question, Mr. Livingston?
No, me ask,
Mr. Young.
disposal, what, this money, 3,100,000 and something, why this disposal of? You see there?
I see 602. Are you
No,
looking
man,
at
right, yeah, right, and you see 3,100,000 and something, and a written off, adjustment. Disposal?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, these would be things that we have either disposed of or made provisions of during the year.
Okay, Mr. Chairman. All right. You can turn to page 126. $29, deferred taxation.
Mm-hmm.
I see deferred tax asset, deferred liability, net liability of 127,124,000. Can you give the group and the company, can you give an explanation, please?
Yeah, so we recognized during the year in 2019 deferred tax assets that existed as losses in Golden Grove. So we closed the sugar operation, and then we have continued the sale of commodities. So we still sell sugar. We just do not manufacture it at this point in time. In fact, the farm still grows sugar. That's why there was biological assets. We've pivoted the operation because we are using the cane as feed for the cows for the dairy operation. So we're still in the agricultural side of the sugar business. We're just not in the manufacturing side. And we're not producing sugar.
You know, say, Mr. Chairman, if you give some other people them sugar thing they look after, them I don't know how they do it. Some other country, if they come and buy the same sugar something, and they make money off it, millions of dollars. I know what is the problem? Why cost? Why you have to dispose of it? I don't know what is the problem.
Affordability. I think it was more we couldn't afford to keep it.
The same sugar industry. If you give to other somebody, them make best of it. I don't know what's the problem. Bad management.
Well, I mean, we had it for many years, and we managed it. Perhaps you could say badly because the results weren't very good. But I would say it's bad regulation. The regulation of the sugar industry is one that has just not led to increased productivity and efficiency.
Because
thank you very much, Mr. Young. Do you have any further questions?
Because just look at your liability of 124 million something. You can between 2018 and 19. Net profit, net liability, net liability of 120 something. You understand? More things to it. But,
okay. What's your concern about that? No, you don't have a concern. It's just a fact.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
You know what? The whole process, the financial, is a journey. Huh? And when you look at things at that moment in time, it can be very misleading. We have always been on a journey to bring major value to shareholders and to our country and to our employees. And a lot of the efforts we have put into last year, thank God we did. I mean, when you look at what has hit us this year, if we were doing the consolidation of dairy this year, etc., we'd be caught with our pants down in the wrong place. So I think that it's a journey. We've always been telling the story of this journey for 5 years. We've sat up here 4 years telling this journey. The evidence of the journey is happening this year.
Yeah, because maybe that's the sugar. If you give other countries, they make best right. I don't know what happened. Maybe a poor management.
Yeah. As a shareholder Seprod, you should be glad that you're no longer losing value.
Yeah, we should have included that in Mr. Staples' prayer because we're very grateful to have no longer be partaking in that industry. Yes, sir, your name?
Lanzel Bloomfield, shareholder.
Mr. Bloomfield.
And I have 3 questions.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, some AGM ago there was a proposal to import a new breed of dairy cattle that would be able to produce some 20 liters of milk per cattle. Were you able to achieve this?
No. No, we haven't been able to achieve that. Yeah.
That is beyond just our decision. That has to come from the Ministry of Industry, from Agriculture, etc. So
there are very strict protocols on the importation of livestock. So we did not achieve that, no.
Okay. What percentage of the processed and packaged flour market do you now have? And are there any further price reduction being contemplated at this time?
We have, I believe, close to around 30%. Yeah, it's about 30%. I mean, if it's 28 or 31 on any given month, it's moving around that position. Pricing is something that we are very sensitive to what and where the product should be placed in terms of pricing. There has been a huge movement in the Jamaican dollar, and the inputs for flour are imported, wheat. We don't grow wheat in Jamaica, unfortunately. And as a result of that, I would imagine that the price of flour, to some extent, is going to move relative to the Jamaican dollar in the future.
Understood.
Has brought a significant reduction in the price.
Yeah, to be absolutely clear, I mean, the average price of a bag of flour when we entered the market was about $37 US. I think the average price now is like 23 or something.
23 or something.
Yeah. So there's been a 40%
reduction
in the price of flour with the introduction of our new efficient mill.
Thank you on that. Mr. Chair, some of the subsidiaries we do not hear a lot about. Example, the Butterkiss Biscuit Factory. Could we get some more information on the operations of this subsidiary? And can there be a tour, a scheduled tour of this operation at the end of COVID-19?
Yeah, I think your last sentence really is the most important one. Absolutely, we'd be happy to have a tour at the end of COVID-19. And in that tour, perhaps what we will do is we'll give you a full presentation on the business and where we are and how it's doing. Just on a update on it as of now, clearly the business produces product that is designed mostly for consumption by children. And with schools closed, etc., all items such as snackables, snacks, small drinks, beverages, the sales of those are certainly challenging without the traditional distribution outlets, which tends to be schools. That being said, we are working hard to continue to build our cracker business, etc. But without a doubt, the snack business is certainly a challenge in Jamaica during COVID times.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Sorry, Mr. Young, we have another person. Thank you.
Maybe.
Good morning to you, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman.
sir.
Good morning. Wesley Thomas, shareholder. Two questions from last year. The first question I remember asking was that it's to Mr. Williams, actually, the auditor's report. I remember clearly mentioning that perhaps he needs to bring a colleague to share the burden to read the report.
Yes.
One person to read it is much too long.
Yes.
I've always said that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perhaps divide it. Yeah? That's the first thing. Secondly, the UK is going to leave the European Union next month.
Yep.
What plans this company has towards Brexit?
So the vast majority of our exports are to the UK within Europe. So we are keeping a very close eye on what we need to do if documentation is changing, etc. And we do not foresee that there will be a fallout because of that change in what we're doing. But the European Union and Britain have still not concluded their own negotiations. So I would imagine it's not going to be clear until that is done, and then the next steps would take place.
Okay.
But thank you. It's a very good question. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Yes.
Good morning, Chairman. Al Edwards.
Good morning, Al.
Chairman, this is an opinion, and I'd really like to get this opinion both from yourself and from Richard. Bearing in mind the present paradigm we exist in, re-COVID, and you're both in the food distribution business, more particularly food staples, which a lot of Jamaicans eat. You've got a manufacturing component. What can the government perhaps give you some kind of moratorium on taxes or some kind of break, even if it's for a year? I see Bill Gates is saying we're going to have to live with this until the end of 21. If that's the case, what can be done? What kind of help can you elicit from the government? What would you like to see going forward?
I would like to. I mean, they're very. I think it's very.
I'm talking both also in the context that if you look across the world, you see a lot of governments coming to the aid of a lot of industries.
Right.
And that's the context I'm putting this in.
So, Mr. Edwards, I think the first context or framework that I would look in, and I don't want to speak for
You can be candid.
other manufacturers, etc. And I'm sure Richard probably have to have a more guided, sort of guarded view on this, and it'd be interesting to hear what he has to say. But the most important thing for me as a person in the private sector working is that we have to protect the social inequality that could arise out of the disruption. Protecting that first, the individuals rather than firms, is much more important. The hardships that emerge from being laid off because you worked in a hotel and you never envisioned that this would be possible. And I can tell you, I mean, I sit on a risk committee of a company that lends money, as well as I'm chairman of the Development Bank of Jamaica, and we lend money to many people, and I chair that risk committee. At no point during meetings would we ever consider for a tourist development loan, oh, it's possible there would be no tourism in Jamaica. So this clearly is something at a corporate level we wouldn't have anticipated, but we must take it down to an individual level, because if you're a person that worked for a hotel business for 20 years and you have borrowed money and bought a car and you need to buy school books, and now school is mostly online, or possibly maybe or may not be, I have no idea. So that requires purchasing a tablet or some sort of mechanism. At least it's a little bit more expensive. Children are home, so they're eating in the fridge constantly. It's hard. And my main concern is that we need to make sure the people of Jamaica, the individuals, the ones that are really, really hurting, get some direct support. And I think the government is working towards that with care programs and different things. Because in the end of the day, we work in an economy, and Seprod, we're big boys. We have a lot of really smart people that work at Seprod, a lot of people that I'm just privileged to be working with. And we'll pivot and we'll figure it out. But if there's no market there, because people are unemployed and they have no money to buy our goods, then that is a problem for us. So I would sort of change and answer your question in that, and I'm not, look, I would never look a gift horse in the mouth, right? But equally, at the same time, I would love to see a government that is extremely fiscally prudent and careful. The hard work that has been done should not be unraveled. But there is no doubt that there needs to be direct intervention to help individuals because people are hurting. Helping the individuals helps companies like Seprod because that maintains the marketplace. It allows people to continue to give a little box of milk to their child every day so they're getting what they need to get. And that's what we're in the business of.
Chairman, can I just push you a little bit? But the corollary of that is basically to get that little box of milk, that the people who make that box of milk have to exist. And the people who work in those companies, they need to get jobs. So I'm pushing you a little bit. I'm just saying, should we be taking a more protectionist position, even in the short term, to just, so that these companies, as you can say, as you said, can produce these staples, in the short term?
So I think you're seeing a lot of that in global trade now, right? And there's reasons for that. I would be in support of policy that will help individuals and will ensure that there are people working. And in addition to that, if it's impossible to get jobs for everybody, because it's difficult to do that, requires a longer process, etc. Direct intervention, which is existing, but that, in my opinion, is the most important thing, because you have to keep the availability of a market there. If you keep an availability of a market there and some level of dollars in people's pockets, That, I believe, is a good strategy. For far too long, certainly through tax policy, we have chosen winners and losers in Jamaica. It has not served us well. I mean, I think it's much better that we have direct intervention, and I think the government, this is what they have been doing, with individuals, and then let the marketplace determine where they spend the dollars that they receive.
Okay. Richard, do you have a view, or do you want to?
There's alignment with what the chairman is saying. At the end of the day, I mean, if you ask me what COVID has presented, an opportunity to strengthen our economy, to get a more diversified economy. Our economy will not grow because of the Seprods and the bigger companies. It will grow because of the small and medium-sized business. I think a lot of emphasis has to be placed in putting a lot of effort in the SMEs to strengthen them so that they can employ people. We can create quality jobs. In the manufacturing and agricultural sector, I think it's one of our biggest opportunities for value-added growth. And so we need to be putting measures in place. I believe, for example, the penalties on GCT payments, etc., could be foregone for a period of time.
Exactly.
Those penalties are onerous. I mean, those could be and allow the companies to keep their cash flow going, to keep people employed. I mean, we will not have enough fund to direct intervention for a sustained period, but we have to create an environment where we can create jobs at this point in time. So that's where I'd go, and I'm perfectly aligned. It's about getting our people working. The social inequity in our society is a problem, and we need to find a way to start correcting those. We have to create a better Jamaica for everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your question. Janelle, do you have any questions?
Yes, I do.
You might want to. Sorry.
Yes, I do. I actually have a few of them.
Okay.
I'm just going to start off with them. All right. Could you comment on the company's expansion into...
You might need to remove your mask. But you are very protected with the plastic thing. Yeah.
All right, let me start over. Could you comment on the company's expansion into the Trinidad market through the Surge and Supergen brands? Do you think there is space for the company to become a competitor among Ramsaran's dairy products in a specific product segment?
Right. Is that based upon the Ramsaran dairy products tweets?
Yes, I believe so.
But I think if she tweets again like that, any product we put next to it will probably sell. But I will pass over to Richard to answer that question.
First of all, we see Trinidad and the CARICOM market as our domestic market. We don't consider it to be export. CARICOM for us is domestic market. For too long, Jamaican companies have acted like our domestic market is only Jamaica. CARICOM is where we need to be looking at as domestic market. We will participate in all these markets in an aggressive way. We're already in Trinidad and Tobago. It's a very important market for us with the Supergen brand. For the first time since the COVID pandemic, we actually shipped fresh milk out of Jamaica for the first time to Trinidad. I mean, and the opportunity is not so much about who we're competing with in the market. The opportunity is about replacing imports into the region with locally produced stuff. So our answer to that is that we're aggressive, and we will continue to grow, and all these markets are our domestic markets.
All right, thank you for that. All right, since I went there, I'm going to switch around my questions. I'm going to ask this one. Does the company have any intention to expand into Guyana, given the potential for massive economic growth of that company in the medium term? Already in there?
Yeah. Would we like to be in Guyana in a bigger way?
Yes.
And opportunities don't come in a linear fashion. And if opportunities came for distribution, etc., for purchasing a distribution business or working closer with the people that we work with, or any opportunities, we would certainly look at that. But we do have relationships in Guyana that we would want to grow and maintain.
Okay.
And we see Guyana as a big opportunity. But I think Guyana is a little bit. I mean, we have other businesses in Guyana, so I can outside of Seprod, and it's going to not be a direct correlation to economic growth, which is a product of productivity from basically the oil to the consumption on the ground. I mean, there's not going to be a tripling or quadrupling automatically in the next year of essentially milk products or anything else. There will be more demand, but it's going to take, it's not going to be a direct correlation. It's going to take a little time, and we're going to work with our partners down there to continue to build that market out.
All right, good stuff. I like how that sounds. All right. Does Seprod have any plans again for St. Thomas in the near future?
Do we have plans for St. Thomas?
We have never left St. Thomas.
Yeah, we're not neither elected representatives nor we're not the custodians.
I think they meant in relation to the sugar factory close and the close of the Surge Mill factory.
Right. So we're going to continue in the growth of the cane for the foreseeable future, harvesting it and processing that cane for various usages.
And we're a major player in the dairy farming.
Yes.
We continue to expand that. We expect to have the most modern dairy farms in the Caribbean. That's one of our next major steps as we move forward.
I mean, I think there's a little misunderstanding. When we closed our factory in St. Thomas, we did not reduce our investment in St. Thomas. In fact, we're doubling up our investment in St. Thomas because we still have 6,000 cows in St. Thomas. They're going to remain in St. Thomas. We have to modernize our dairy techniques. We're going to be putting a lot more investment in St. Thomas. So there may be a misconception about that.
All right, thanks for the clarity. All right, one last question. Seprod apparently sold a piece of property to Musin Group affiliate CPFV. Would you care to comment on the particulars of that transaction and the benefit to the shareholders?
Well, first of all, it did not sell a piece of property to a Musin Group affiliate. The Epley Property Fund is a listed mutual fund that is listed in Barbados, Trinidad, and Jamaica, and has over 3,000 shareholders, of which are all publicly disclosed, and you can download the annual reports and see who owns what, etc. It is controlled by Epley. From a management point of view, it's an asset manager. It manages that, and I am indeed chairman of Epley. The property, Industrial Sales Limited, which I believe is 107 Marcus Garvey Drive, is a warehouse complex and was formerly used by Industrial Sales, the subsidiary. Industrial Sales moved to what we are now developing as our distribution center, and we decided to divest the property. We got several valuations, and effectively Epley Property Fund met the valuation. I mean, it was a considerable amount of money. There are not that many people in Jamaica that can draw a check for that amount of money. And they issued units which we deemed to not be core to Seprod. And that's something that's quite consistent. When we made an investment in Grace Kennedy and the investment tripled in value and we sold it off, what did we do? We distributed the proceeds to our shareholders. And that's something that we really believe in. You know, it's yes, you can do a 90 cents or $1 every year and it's consistent. But if you have one-offs, then we want to distribute that out unless we have an alternative use for it. But the business is doing very well at this point in time. The capital that we're earning every month is more than covering our capital investments, any acquisition aspirations, etc. We have quite a bit of cash on hand. So we decided to distribute the units to the shareholders. And they will be receiving a dividend that will be probably the largest dividend that we have made in Seprod's history, slightly over $1 billion, about 140 something cents a share. and we believe this is a good use of proceeds.
Thank you, sir.
Do you have any further questions?
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other further questions? Mr. Young, there's a process. There's a mic over there. I will take one question from you, and then we will go to approve the
It's not a
accounts.
question. Yeah, just something me a begin up. The award me see on page 33. We just like to begin up, you know. Page 33. You see the award there?
Yes.
Yeah, just the one begin up, you know. Me see the award. 2019. I just, you know.
Yeah, thank you very much. You know, I'm very proud of the management's achievements, and thank you for highlighting that. I'm probably less sensitive to them because I've seen them on a monthly basis, and therefore should have and ought to have congratulate management on this. So congratulations, management. Another annual award. So if there's no other question, oh yes, one question. Please, could I have your name and the number of questions?
Hi. Sorry. Hi, good afternoon. Name is Yanika Walker Tomlinson. Right, just one question. I've been looking at the list of products that you are affiliated with.
Right.
Is there any plan to add any gluten-free line to your products?
Yes.
I know that you have the gold seal. That's the only thing I've seen there.
Great question. Thank you for the PR plug for the opportunity. So last week we launched our gluten-free cassava flour, made in Jamaica from cassava here, working with a small and medium manufacturer, and it's on the shelves as we speak. Kerry-Ann can tell you where it is, but we're very, very proud of it, and we're expanding into the healthy food space.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much.
And we didn't PR.
So if there are no further questions, I move that the director's report, the auditor's report, and the audited account showing the position of the company's affairs as at December 31st, 2019, now before the meeting be and are hereby approved and adopted. Can I have a second? Thank you very much, Mr. Staples. All in favor? Aye, motion carried. We are now going to go to the election of the directors, of which I am one of them, so I'm going to recuse myself, and Mr. Richard Panduri will take over chairing the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, outgoing chairman. Welcome to the incoming chairman. So in accordance with Articles 89 and 91 of the Oh, there.
I would like to pass a resolution requesting that you take en bloc in terms of time. So we do the en bloc situation.
We have it under control. We're going to do that. We're going to do that right now. And I want a moment to shine here. Give me a chance. I mean, you know, I'm going to tell my wife and kids about this later. Come on. So in accordance to the Articles 89 and 91 of the company's Article of Association, the following directors are retiring from office and being eligible offer themselves for re-election. Mr. Paul B. Scott, Michael Seprod, Mr. Nicholas Scott, and Mr. Peter J. Thwaites. Will somebody move that the nominations be made en bloc? So Mark, and then seconded by Roy Staples. Okay, can we have a motion then that Messrs. Paul B. Scott, Michael Seprod, Nicholas Scott, and Peter Thwaites be re-elected directors of Seprod Limited? Moved by? Livingston Young, seconded by? Where's the top? Okay. Can we have a vote on the motion? Aye, okay. So as a result, I'm declaring that all the members have been returned en bloc. So as a result, I reluctantly pull myself away from this and resume my non-chairman position.
Thank you very much, Richard. So we now go to the remuneration of the directors. I move that the amount shown in the accounts for the year ended 31st December 2019 for directors' fees be and is hereby approved. Will somebody second the motion, please? Yes, sir? Thank you. All in favor? All right, thank you very much. Appointment and remuneration of auditors. PricewaterhouseCoopers have indicated their willingness to continue in office. I move that directors be authorized to fix and agree the remuneration of the auditors. Can I have a second, please? Mr. Young, all in favor? Aye. Electronic distribution of AGM notice and audited accounts. I move that the members agree to accept an electronic format, including email, notices, or audited accounts, or any other document required to be sent by the company to the members. Can I have a second? Thank you very much. That is Mr. Bloomfield. No, that wasn't Mr. It's Mr. Thomas. Mr. Thomas. And second, all in favor? Aye. Aye, thank you very much. Dividend payment. The company paid an interim dividend of 50 cents per ordinary stock unit to stockholders on record of August 2nd, 2019. The payment date was August 30th, 2019. The company paid a further dividend of 50 cents per ordinary stock unit to stockholders on record as at January 3rd, 2020. The payment date was 31st of January, 2020. I move the dividend of the 50 cents per ordinary stock unit paid on August 30th, 2019, and the dividend of the 50 cents per ordinary stock unit paid on January 31st, 2020 are hereby approved. Can I have a second, please? Mr. Bloomfield? All in favor? Thank you very much. Any other business? Is that... Sorry? No, I didn't need to. Okay. Are there any other business? Yes, I need a lot of things too, and I would love that. Yeah. Is there any other business to be discussed properly at the annual general meeting? If so, if not, going once, going twice. Thank you very much. Everyone, I wish you the very best. Have a great day, and have a great year. If I don't see you in the next year, or if none of us see you in the next year, I hope to see you. Of course, we'll have that biscuit tour. With that, I'll bring the meeting to a close. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Okay, hold on for a second for me. Good morning, everyone. And the Ministry of Health is here, and there are protocols, so we're going to ask everyone to leave row by row, starting with the back row. Oh, yeah, please don't but I mean, that's regrettably a protocol we have to observe at the moment. So we just ask everyone to leave row by row, starting with the back row. Thank you very much.